What's going on, everybody? Mike here. If you'd like to join the ever-growing Fly Casual community, please take a moment right now to subscribe to our channel and share with a friend. Today, we're coming to you with news and commentary on the departure of Benioff and Weiss from their planned Star Wars Trilogy. Suit up and strap in. It's time once again to Fly Casual.
Let's get ready to wrinkle!
Shocking news this week from the world of Star Wars as D.B. Weiss and David Benioff announced their departure from their previously announced Star Wars Trilogy that was scheduled to be released on December 16th, 2022, and would have been the first movie post-Skywalker-Saga with the release of the Rise of Skywalker on December 19th this year. The pair released a statement this past Monday. "We love Star Wars. When George Lucas built it, he built us too. Getting to talk about Star Wars with him and the current Star Wars team was the thrill of a lifetime, and we will always be indebted to the saga that changed everything. But there are only so many hours in the day, and we felt like we could not do justice to both Star Wars and our Netflix projects. So we are regretfully stepping away." Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy commented, "David Benioff and Dan Weiss are incredible storytellers. We hope to include them in the journey forward when they are able to step away from their busy schedule to focus on Star Wars." This announcement comes on the heels of Benioff and Weiss's August 2019 announcement that they had penned a $250 million deal with Netflix to produce original programming for the streaming service. There are some that speculate that the pair were fired from the trilogy behind the scenes. I don't find this credible. Lucasfilm has a track record since the Disney acquisition of chasing hot directors, producers, and writers for their projects. Fresh off their Game of Thrones foray, Benioff and Weiss were as hot as they came at the time of their trilogy commitment to Lucasfilm in 2018. I really believe that this came down to dollars and cents for the pair. In the end, their commitment was going to be where the money is and, in my opinion, where they would have the most creative control over their projects. I truly believe they would have enjoyed playing in the Star Wars sandbox, but the opportunity to be paid big money to write and produce their own creative projects, I think, would win over most people in this position. Not to mention that Netflix probably had something to say about their involvement with their direct competitor in Disney. In fact, it's probably safe to assume that this announcement has been in the works since the Netflix announcement in August. That said, the timing of the announcement is interesting. Earlier in the day, Lucasfilm released the final trailer for the new and highly anticipated TV series The Mandalorian, coming to the Disney Plus streaming network in November. The show has been stoking excitement for months now, and seems to be a unifying force for the moment among a fractured fan base. With setback after setback Lucasfilm has seen since the release of The Force Awakens in 2015, it feels like they and Disney are engaging in some damage control by announcing the good news before spilling the bad. And let there be no mistake, Disney and Lucasfilm are conducting damage control at this point. Since the acquisition from George Lucas in 2012, Disney Lucasfilm started with a bang in 2015 with the release of the highly anticipated and financially successful Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Despite some criticism that the film was too formulaic and closely copied the beats and rhythms of 1977's A New Hope, The Force Awakens was widely accepted by fans and critics alike as a nice introduction back to the Star Wars universe after the somewhat maligned prequel era, fraught with poor directing choices and overuse of CGI. Unbelievably, this would prove to be the high point for Disney Lucasfilm, in my opinion. Since 2015, there has been one setback after another for Lucasfilm, including the announcement of hiring and subsequent firing of volatile director Josh Trank from the presumed Boba Fett film, turmoil on the set of Rogue One as Tony Gilroy is brought in late in the process to rescue Gareth Edwards in Rogue One, Prior to the release of The Last Jedi, Kathleen Kennedy announces that director Rian Johnson has been given his own trilogy of movies to produce. The announcement appears short-sighted given the lukewarm reception to the movie upon release. The Last Jedi is released and the fandom splits. Never has any Star Wars film evoked such emotion and disagreement among the fandom, even among prequel critics. Solo, a Star Wars story, gets, by some accounts, 80 to 90% through the process before directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller are fired from the project. Ron Howard is hired to clean up the mess. Budgets skyrocket and Solo ultimately becomes the first flop in Star Wars history, taking in less than $400 million at the worldwide box office and losing some $80 to $100 million when it's all said and done. Colin Trevorrow was hired to direct the final installment of the sequel trilogy, after going to Lucasfilm and requesting that Rian Johnson leave Luke Skywalker alive at the end of his movie, since he had a treatment for the character in his version of Ep9. The director is told no and summarily fired from the film. Lucasfilm begs J.J. Abrams to come back and finish the trilogy he helped start. Early projections for JJ's version of Ep9 predict the Rise of Skywalker will take in less than the previous two films. And now Benioff and Weiss are hired for a trilogy to be released in 2022 and walk away from the project to pursue Netflix TV shows. Disney has also had its share of controversy with the less than stellar openings of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at its US-based theme parks. There's also been whistleblower accusations of inflating income to hit profit targets and declining merchandise sales, among others. Financially, an argument can be made that despite these setbacks, Disney Lucasfilm has been profitable overall. Defenders argue that Lucasfilm is on track and doing better than ever. This view, however, is, in my opinion, incredibly short-sighted. Disney is well aware of the problems at Lucasfilm. Disney head exec Bob Iger admitted that there were problems in an investor conference call in September 2018 and announced a slowdown in film releases. The hiring of Benioff and Weiss was widely regarded as the next step in righting the ship. However, with their departure, the 2022 kickoff of the new trilogy is again up in the air. And I know there are those that will point to Rian Johnson and suggest that this opens the way for his trilogy to move forward sooner rather than later. However, I don't believe that for a second. Although Lucasfilm has not said anything officially about Rian Johnson's trilogy since it was announced prior to the release of The Last Jedi, I don't see how, given all this turmoil, that Disney will be willing to risk further divisions in the fan base, no matter how big or small you think said divisions are in reality. Rian Johnson is now synonymous with controversy, which is something Disney wants no part of going forward. In my opinion, Disney wants the sure thing that will right the ship and get the franchise back on top where it belongs, which is where Kevin Feige comes in. But more on him in a moment. Ultimately, responsibility falls squarely on the shoulder of leadership, Kathleen Kennedy. A highly competent and respected producer, Kathleen Kennedy was handpicked by George Lucas just prior to the Disney sale to head the company in his stead. Bob Iger, in his memoir, states that he was surprised that George Lucas installed her as the head of the company just prior to the Disney purchase. But given her track record and Lucas's faith in her, they didn't fight the move. I do find it interesting, however, that Iger reveals this in his book. It tells me that Kathleen Kennedy was likely not their first choice in heading the company. I have to wonder in hindsight if he regrets not fighting that at the time. The announcement in September of this year that Kevin Feige would be producing a Star Wars film seemed very odd. Officially, at the time, Disney had committed to two different trilogies, Rian Johnson and Benioff Weiss. Apparently announcing a seventh movie while six others were presumably in production was strange, even if you didn't believe that RJ's trilogy was actually going to happen. In hindsight, it's clear to me that the Feige announcement came once they knew that Benioff and Weiss were jumping ship. Given Kevin Feige's track record with the Marvel MCU, Disney obviously saw this as an opportunity to announce what it saw as good news prior to the bad news of the Benioff-Weiss departure. I also see the Feige announcement as more than just producing a film. In my opinion, this move was made now prior to the end of Kathleen Kennedy's contract expiration in 2021 to groom him to take over the company. A man of Feige's talents isn't merely in producing films. The announcement of his taking over as chief creative officer of the entire Marvel division proves this point. Kathleen Kennedy is allowed to leave with dignity and reputation intact, and the new era of Star Wars begins. In closing, I must say that when they announced Benioff and Weiss were getting a trilogy, I saw this as a positive step forward. I know they got a lot of grief for the final season of Game of Thrones. Criticism, by the way, I don't share. I thought the final season was rushed, but ultimately ended the only way it could. I believed at the time that they were good at taking source material and translating it to the screen. I was all the more excited when the rumors had it that they were tackling the Old Republic era. In hindsight, however, I understand that this was yet another example of Lucasfilm chasing the hot talent at the time, something they haven't had much success with in the past. Although I was excited at their involvement initially, I'm glad that they stepped away now instead of Lucasfilm getting in more trouble with here today and gone tomorrow directors. I'm more excited at the prospect of Feige coming in and finding the right people for the job. I'm excited for someone coming in that cares about the source material and knows how to translate it to the big screen. I'm excited for the foray into television, including The Mandalorian and the new Obi-Wan series. I'm excited for people like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, who have successful track records and show genuine enthusiasm for Star Wars. And finally, I'm excited for something that no one is talking about: George Lucas's apparent involvement in these new projects as of late. Favreau and Filoni have consulted Lucas on The Mandalorian. Even Benioff and Weiss paid him homage and indicated that they were consulting him on their project. I feel like that George should still be part of this process while we still have him with us, and it feels like he's getting that due right now. At least I hope so. Now, it's time to hear from you. What do you think of the departure of Benioff and Weiss? What are your thoughts on the possibility of Kevin Feige getting a leadership role in Lucasfilm? Will RJ get his trilogy? Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. Please share in the comments below. And if you like what you hear and the content we provide, please give us a thumbs up and share this video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and share with your friends. We hope you enjoyed this special edition of Fly Casual. If you haven't already, please subscribe and rate us at iTunes, Stitcher, and all your favorite podcast locations. It is important that you rate us so that we can reach more and more people. As always, be sure to check out the show notes at betterkind.com. There are also many ways to join in on the conversation. Follow us on Twitter at FlyCasual1138. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/FlyCasualPodcast. We are also now on YouTube, so please take a moment right now to subscribe and ding the bell for updates. We are also now on Discord as well. Lots of opportunities to chime in. Reach out and say hi. Talk to you soon.